It's not clicking. That's the topic of this week's edition of The Intersection. So let's dive right in. I was looking up some information yesterday about how the city's being affected by the World Cup because my studio, which we're in right now, happens to be right in the middle of a restricted access zone during the World Cup game days. Now, of course, when I searched on my phone, I got some AI overviews, and then I dove deeper into Gemini because I actually, had a lot of questions about how to still get things done in the studio around what's going on over the next few weeks. So I was thinking back to what happened last week. My friends at Grow Class, they hosted a online virtual kind of marketing summit called Proofed, and it covered one of the terms that I've heard a lot about and I wanted to dive deeper into. It's called zero click. And that literally means getting to your answer without having to click on a website and actually navigate the website or many websites. It's getting the answer right away. So I thought, the term zero click sounded a little bit jarring. It always had to me the first few times that I heard it a couple years back. And I think it's super relevant now, as we just heard, recently that Google is shifting the way that they are going about search and making it, AI focused. So I thought, let's dive into a little bit of a marketing lesson because things are moving pretty fast. So what does zero click even mean, and how does it apply to trust, visibility, and the work that we do now? So Amanda, she's pretty much credited, by the way, for creating the term. She led a session during Proofed called the Zero Click Playbook, and it was about how to build demand before the website actually gets visited. And I think it's important to talk about because people are discovering, evaluating, trusting, doubting, comparing. They're doing all of this and they're making decisions long before they ever land on your website. Sometimes they don't even land on the website at all, right? So if you're a marketer, that matters. If you're a founder, obviously that is really important. It also matters if you run a nonprofit organization. I work with a lot of great causes. And if you're an educator or a consultant like me, it matters, of course, right? If you're just someone who is trying to make sense of what to buy, who to trust, who to believe, and where to spend your attention, this change in how we actually consume and find information is obviously important. So, it's messier. The internet is messier than a simple path from search results to website to decision. We don't just follow that path anymore. I think some of it, some of what's changed on the internet actually makes it more human, but it's also more fragmented. In a lot of ways, it's harder to measure than a lot of marketers like to admit, right? So people might see your post on LinkedIn. They might hear you on a podcast. I do a lot of content in podcasts. They might watch a short video, maybe something like this. They might see your name, mentioned in a group chat or in a thread on Reddit, let's say. They might ask ChatGPT for recommendations, or maybe they come across your work through someone else's newsletter. There's this whole kind of mix that can happen now, right? And that's why zero-click marketing is that idea that value, trust, and demand are increasingly built before someone clicks through to your site. And all of those things are just examples of how that can happen. Then, of course, much later, they might Google you. And when they do, Google might get the credit for that search. But, that's not the whole story. Clearly, we know that today. So the website is no longer the front door. Now, I personally remember I started off my freelance days building classic websites in HTML and learning CSS. And there was, these basic WordPress sites and templates, but no matter the templates or the platform that we were using, the website was the hub. All of my clients asked for a website first when they came to me. So for years, the digital marketing playbook was built around traffic, getting people there, right? Publish the post, get the click, capture the email, attribute the source, show the graph, explain, defend it in a meeting where everyone pretends to understand these analytics. And that wasn't the whole truth, but it was clear enough. And now that model is breaking down. So Amanda, one of the speakers there, she shared what she calls the alligator graph, which is that impressions are rising while clicks are declining. And in other words, more people may see your work, but fewer of them are actually clicking away from the platform where they found it on. So search is not dead. Just want to throw that in here. Social media is not dead. Websites are not dead. And email is definitely not dead. Even though, every once in a while we see a funeral saying or announcement saying that it is. And I do appreciate people, reading the newsletter because clearly you're reading it. It's working. However, behavior has definitely changed. Consumer behavior. 68% of Google searches now end without a click. And for every 1,000 Google searches, only 232 clicks go to the open web, a website, right? That's changed a lot. Even in just 2 years, that number was 360 out of 1,000. So search itself, I want to note as well, it's a lot bigger than just Google. People search on Amazon, right? We search things on YouTube. We search things from like the TikTok app. We search things on Reddit, on LinkedIn. I just did that today to try to find some posts that people were talking about an event. Of course, we search ChatGPT. And so search is not just one channel. It is a behavior as a whole. And I think that we need to stop thinking of discovery as something that only happens on, our own owned properties, like our website, let's say, or app. People are not waiting politely at the front door of your homepage. They're walking around the neighborhood, asking people what they think of us, right? And who are they asking? Well, that includes customers, peers, communities, AI tools, social feeds, search results, review sites, podcast episodes, event pages, all these little third-party breadcrumbs that they all form someone's impression of you, right? Before you might even know that they're looking for you. And so the public record matters more than ever today. We're shaping it though. You and I are shaping the public record. It's not only what you say about yourself, it's also the collection of signals that exist around you. And I talk about this a lot with my clients at Clarity. The posts, the interviews, the mentions, the testimonials, the reviews, the case studies, the comments, the event appearances, all these things, community discussions, podcast episodes you were on, search results, all of that actually helps inform AI tools and people, of course, to understand who you are, right? So it's a combination of having people and AI understand and get a complete picture of who you are, what you do, and how you can help. So that's where zero-click marketing connects directly to brand, which obviously is a big focus of mine. I talk about all the time how, a brand is not just a logo. It's not just your color palette. Although, I've got my orange chair back there. Daniel Does Orange is my brand. It's a color as part of my brand, but it's not my whole brand, right? And so it's the meaning that people attach to you based on the repeated signals over time. That's what brand is. And part of this is that those signals are now being gathered and summarized, again, by humans and by machines. So that means that all of your best proof is sitting quietly in a folder somewhere called testimonials, or maybe it's hidden in your inbox, or maybe it's buried in a sales deck that not a lot of people actually get to see. All that stuff is not doing the work that it could be doing for you. So if your client says great things about you, that should be visible. If your team has expertise, that should be shared. If your organization is making an impact, that should be documented. If your community trusts you, there should be proof of that, right? People should be able to find that trust. So it's something that I think a lot about through Clarity Content, because my work is to help founders and leaders and organizations turn their expertise into visible proof. Again, it's not just to create content that's loud or that's, in a performative way. It's in a way that helps the right people understand exactly, what you know, what you believe, and why that matters. The content itself, of course, it often has to do the job before the website ever gets a chance to, and that's what zero-click is all about. Content has to be useful where people find it. Now, this is something, it's a big shift from the digital marketing days that I learned about coming up in my career. One of the things that Amanda mentioned is to teach without requiring the click, meaning give them the information right there where they are. They could be on social, they could be in a chat, they could be in an app. You don't need to make them go to your website to download something or go to your blog and subscribe. Just give them the information where they are. And really, I've been guilty of this as well. Like a lot of marketing and content treats these social posts and videos and newsletters like a little trailer for the real content, the main story that's somewhere else, right? Teasing the idea. I remember doing this a lot in the past as well. And the link, the link is not necessarily, shouldn't be the most valuable thing, right? Because you don't want people always leaving to get the actual answer. It made a little bit more sense in the past, but now platforms are trying to reduce the reach of posts with external links. I've seen the stats, right? SparkToro, they share that they often see posts without links getting sometimes 10 times more reach, depending on the platform that you're on. And Meta has been telling business accounts for a while to put links in the comments, for example, instead of in the captions, because links can reduce reach. So we can still share links. Links aren't, the enemy, but the post itself needs to be worth consuming. That's the point, right? It's not about getting everyone somewhere else, get them off the platform as soon as possible. No, you can provide the value right then and there. The LinkedIn post itself can be the full lesson, right? A short video can stand on its own. You don't always have to send someone to watch the full one. The newsletter should offer a real idea. And I try to do that with my newsletter, not just sending you somewhere else, right? So this is one of the reasons why I have focused on founder-led content and leader-led content, because when someone with actual experience explains how they think, what they're noticing, what they've learned, or how they approach a certain problem or situation, it creates trust in a way that generic content just rarely can. People don't only want the information, right? They're not just after an answer. Sometimes they want judgment, they want perspective, they want to understand how you see the world. And, that's hard to just outsource entirely. That's why it's important for founders and leaders to actually show up and do the talking themselves. Now, there's a few things that I'll skip through here that you can read in the longer version of the intersection. I talked a lot about measurement, how it's getting messier, but I kind of think that's a good thing. We talked about how AI is changing search, but that the fundamentals still matter. I talked about how Tiffany, she had a session on how AI is changing SEO. And basically SEO looks different because the interface is changing, but your website still matters, structure still matters, your content itself, of course, really matters, your authority still matters, and so does your credibility. You want to make your website, very accessible and clear for both humans and machines. This is part of what Tiffany was saying. Now, she shared a couple frameworks, and again, this is getting to be a long video. So I'm not trying to send you somewhere else, but just for the purpose of the length of this video, if you're interested in learning more, please do check out the Intersection newsletter. You can subscribe completely for free. That's where you can read the rest of this. And I talk a little bit about why community still matters, and also what all of this means for you, whether you're a founder, a nonprofit, a marketer, or an educator, and a few deeper questions that you can ask yourself. Always ask, are we useful? Are we being clear? Are we credible? Do we look credible here? Are we memorable? Is this something people will actually think about and remember? Are we showing up where people already are? And more importantly, where the right people are? And lastly, are we building trust before we ask for anything? So building trust first. So again, I also have a few reflection questions that you can go through. There's about 8 of them. And again, just talking about this bigger shift, which is that we need to build trust in more places. We need to create that content that's valuable before we even think about the conversion. Let's document our proof and not just make claims. And let's understand that visibility is not only about being found, it's about being remembered for the right things. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, whether it's on the topic or the format. But I will continue to create more content, put out more value for you through the intersection.